I'm Coach Phil, your host. Today we have a guest from a faraway place, not from space, but further away than somewhere. I've never been there. I've never been to Norway. I've been told to go where he lives, but I think the places that people have told me to go to is not as nice as where he lives. So, without any further ado, I would like to run this little commercial that I have that talks about um, my sponsor. So hang on as I go and bring him on. Welcome back. So if you would like to have 30 minutes with a business coach from Focal Point, hey, that's me. Or at least I'm one of 200 around the globe. So if you want to get hold of me, you can go to phil@coachphil.ca. Information's right there. I want to jump in now to my friend Brian Monahan's book. Let me go locate it. Here it is, coming up for you. And in this book, Customer Delight 365, Brian has a number of quotes, and he has a different quote for every day. So today I'm going to actually take one of Brian's that he came up with himself. Delight is a mutual experience. Give it and you get it to receive it. Brian Monahan. He says delight is akin to a hug. The best way to get it is to give it. Did I just quote myself? That might be against the law. I don't think so, Brian. I don't think so at all. So I'm going to bring on my guest whose tagline, well, I'm just going to let him say it when he comes on, and then I'll do an official introduction. Welcome, Joachim. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Isn't it wonderful how we can connect? You're in Norway, and I'm in Canada, a place you have been for about a year in your life, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what's I have the tagline that you say all the time, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to get you to read it, and then I'll go into your introduction that we've created.
Yep. Howdy from hell in Norway, paradise on earth.
And it's Joachim. How do you say your last name?
Buare.
Biaro. I didn't do
but
very well.
you can say JB. That's the easiest part. That's the best.
Okay. Awesome.
That works.
So I want to let people know where you're from and a little bit about you. So I have it written down so I don't mess up. So Joachim lives in hell. Yes, in hell. That's where he lives. But the hell he lives in Norway is kind of like a paradise versus the hell that we have in our mind that we've been told about as we grow up. He lives there with his lovely wife and 3 children. The region he lives in is perfect for him because he loves being outside and being in nature, and every day the variety of his part of the world gives him limitless opportunities for great days. As he says, every day is a fun day. He makes sustainable food production at sea possible all over the world. And that's a pretty big place to make that happen. When he was growing up, his father owned a salmon farming company, so he has been working within the aquaculture industry, not agriculture, aquaculture, all his life. Since the end of 2000, he's been designing aquaculture systems all over the world. His focus is to solve other people's challenges, and in order to be the best at what he does and constantly beating his best. He is an avid student, studying every day, and challenges himself to apply what he has studied. And I've seen that firsthand because he comes on and early in the, I'm probably sleeping when he goes live because of the 8-hour difference, but he does a little live that he does after his exercise and treating his mind and his body to some nourishment as well. He's an avid student, studying every day, and challenges himself to apply what he studied. He became a huge fan of Jeffrey Gitomer after reading his Jeffrey's book, Sales Bible, in 2003, and the Little Red Book on Selling in 2004. He loves to have people buying from him instead of him wasting his time their time trying to sell them a product. After Jeffrey started his live broadcast about a year ago last March, Actually, it says March 16th. So there you go. Last year, he's been learning more and more and slowly getting into the habit of sharing his own content by going live every day. COVID-19 made a solid dent in his plans for 2020. He had just returned from a year living in Canada, which is where I'm located, and was ready to start traveling around the world, providing value with the company he was working in as the president and CPO. As travel closed down, he ended up in a bit of a conundrum. But thanks to all the value he's gotten from the participating in Facebook communities, he managed to stay positive and creative. He was headhunted by another company at the end of 2020 to build a technical department based on his attitude, experience, and knowledge. So the future is as bright as ever, if not brighter. And that's why I'm excited that you were able to fit our business renovator into your schedule. So welcome. And like I said, it's a conversation just with you and I.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
That
was sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, that was a long read, but I hope it wasn't too boring.
I think it was worth reading. Yes, it was a little bit longer than I normally do, but there were so many nuggets in there that really prefaces why we're here, having a virtual coffee, essentially. You're in Norway, and I'm in Canada. I'm in Western Canada. So that leads me to my first question. One other common thread we have is that you've been to Canada, and I live here. I'm not originally from here, but I've lived here most of my life. I am a Canadian citizen. What part of Canada? Were you on the West Coast or the East Coast?
Well, it was on Vancouver Island in a humongous metropolis called Campbell River.
Yes, I've been there.
And I think they call it the salmon capital of the world, at least in Campbell River.
Yes.
So they have a lot of wild catch, lots of salmon in the rivers, and beautiful place. The first time I went there was actually in 2008 for a aquaculture conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually won the world's aquaculture idol, playing guitar while presenting my material. And I don't know, they never did the competition after that, so I must have been incredible. But that was the first time I went to that part, and it's just lovely. I love Canada, so I love the people there.
Yeah, Vancouver Island's a nice place, and Campbell River is nice. While you were there, did you ever get to the west coast of the island, to Tofino?
Yes, I went to Tofino, and it's a never-ending road work going there. It's on the way, yes. and you just. What's really special there is no internet connection. There is no phone connection, so you're just sitting there. So I went with colleagues every time, and you sit there 2 hours, and then you have to get to know each other. It's lovely actually, because you have to get to know each other. So you start talking, and it's very good. It builds team building, but it would maybe be better to take a plane or something to go to Tofino, take a helicopter or.
Yeah, because I've driven that road. It's a 2-lane highway. It winds like it switchbacks a lot. And if you get stuck behind in Europe, a lorry, or here I forget what we call them, an 18-wheeler.
Yeah. But they have road work in the middle. It's a long time road work in the middle there. So that's wow. But it's good to be two. It's boring to go alone, because working on the computer is fine if it's a report or something I'm doing. But apart from reading, there's nothing much you can actually do efficiently, kind of reaching out to people. So bring a book or bring a friend or a colleague. That's the advice of going to Tofino. But I've been there, and I've also been, because I've been visiting all the fish farming, the salmon farming sites at the West Coast, and also further north from Vancouver Island. So I've been to a lot of places there. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you know what I did when the last trip I was out there, when I had my dog, and I was in Campbell River, and I did a mail run on an airplane, so a float plane.
Oh yeah, yep.
The mail run meant that you paid to fly with people that were flown to salmon farms, or what else were they doing out there? Salmon farming, and harvesting trees. So they would have work camps. So they would fly people in. So I got to fly around Vancouver Island, places that you can't get to by car. was fascinating. I was with really highly educated individuals, scientists around fish farming, etc., and crew that were out there working in the kitchens, feeding these scientists and doing all that kind of stuff. That was kind of fun. And then the other thing I liked about Tofino was they have a beach there. I think it's called Long Beach.
Yes.
And you're not supposed to have your dog there, so I broke a rule. But I think I'm past it was like a decade ago, so I'm past any statute of limitations, and the dog has since passed away. But she was a border collie, so they have a lot of energy. It was perfect for her, and we had a lot of fun on Tofino, on Long Beach. The only trouble was she got thirsty, and she started drinking the salt water. Anyway, so I got off on a tangent of Canada.
Yeah, that beach is amazing. It's both kind of wide and long, but it's also depending on the tide, there is a long distance to the water, but it's just beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
People actually surf there. I know people in California, warmer climates, will go, they surf in Canada? It is cold apparently.
They have some world champions coming from Tofino, actually, because you can surf all year, so you have a long period for training.
So is farmed salmon safe to eat? I think the answer is yes, but there is some people, I don't know if they're experts, talking trash about farmed fish.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with them, because it depends on your point of view, and it also depends on what you want people to eat. Because the big thing, or the good thing with salmon, is that you know exactly what you're feeding it. So if you want to make it poisonous, you have to feed it poison, and you don't. There is not something you would do. So you know exactly what you're feeding it. The challenge is that part of the feed comes from seafood. So like in Peru, there is anchovies, I think it's called. It's not. It's a small tuna fish, small type of tuna fish that is not used normally for human consumption. So you catch that, and you make fish meal, and it's both used, or it's used for salmon, it's used for cow feed or pig's feed or anything. So it's that fish meal is used, and the challenge is that you use probably a bit more than 1 kilo of that type of fish to make 1 kilo of salmon. So, but a lot of people eat salmon, but they don't eat that fish. So in that way, it's if you want to be critical, you can say it's not sustainable. But if you look at the other point, well, we don't eat the other type of fish. So the most efficient way to make food from that fish is actually salmon. Salmon is like 5 times more efficient than any other kind of protein production. So it's safe to eat. You know exactly what you're getting. If you look at the package when you buy your salmon in the store, it will tell you exactly with a label where it's made, and you can trace it back exactly to know what's been fed. So it's very safe, and I mean, as safe as food can be. There is always a level to any type of food. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, you can. I watched. I think it's called Seaspiracy on Netflix.
Okay.
And there is actually nothing wrong in that documentary. Everything they're stating is correct. So it's just facts, and I think it's good that actually that open, because any industry should be that open, and that's the challenge that aquaculture has. It's completely open. Fish farming is completely open, so you will get everything. So that's why it's critiques can find things to critique, but then I will challenge them to try to look at agriculture and maybe find the same facts, and they won't. So no, it's safe to eat. That's the short. Yeah, it's safe to eat.
Cool. Hey, enough about the science and food. The other thing where we have a common thread is through the Gittimer world, and we've met. That's kind of where the common thread was, how we got connected a year plus ago. And you've recently been reading a book called Beyond Positive Thinking by Dr. Robert Anthony, right?
Yeah, I'm still reading that because that's an amazing book. I mean, normally when I read every morning, so I read about 20 minutes every morning. So I study the books, I read and I write down the kind of main part of what I'm reading. With Beyond Positive Thinking, it's just that every sentence, every part is kind of so dense, so comprehensive, I would say, maybe. So I write down nearly as much or more than I'm reading. So I'm normally I would be finished with the book, but I'm still kind of halfway, and it blows me away because it takes it's not especially new compared to anything else, but it gives you extremely good advice on how to apply everything you read before. And also
Yeah,
he's kind of explaining why. And it's for me it was like an epiphany for um, timelines, because if you look at the subconscious doesn't have a timeline, it's only present. And
right.
the reason for that is that time is actually artificial. Time is something we have made. It's nothing that actually exists in nature. What exists in nature is the transformation of energy, which we kind of look at as time, but subconscious doesn't care. So that's why when you do your affirmations, you do your visualizations, do it in present tense, because that's the only tense the subconscious understands. And he explains that very clearly in the book. So that's why I like it. As a scientist, I like kind of have the established some facts so I can understand it. So
Yeah,
it's perfect.
absolutely.
It's a great book. Yeah.
I agree. And I've known of his work for. I have a bookshelf over there. I'm looking beyond the camera,
Yeah.
and I had a number of his programs decades ago because I'm older than a lot of people and younger than some, so it's a good thing to be.
Yeah.
And I'm still here exploring my own journey, and his wisdom is quite amazing.
Mm.
It is very, 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 very amazing. So you've got me going back and studying his content again, and yet
That's
I
good.
agree with you.
Yeah.
It's really, really not anything new.
Nope.
It's just like you say, more information. Although, there was one thing that I've been reading this because I knew I was going to talk to you, and I thought, it's a good reason to read this particular book versus some of the other ones I have by him. And the way he does affirmations, do you recall how he changes the beginning structure versus the others? So I'm familiar with I am, I choose to, I get to. Those are
Yep.
beautiful. He has another way to start them.
Yeah, he wants you to kind of say that you intend to do it, and then you intend to in the present tense
Right.
and with emotion. But and I think you can see that that's part of what a lot of other books kind of they don't say it directly. So I feel he has kind of taken the content. He has been doing it for a long time, so he knows how to explain it. But I love it because it makes the float in it. It makes a flow through it that actually makes it easier to visualize it, because you make a full sentence of it. You intend to do, and then when you visualize that, you can actually have that sentence in your visualization. And I think it's very efficient. I really like it. So yeah, it makes sense. That's the thing, because a lot of books can write about like you can attract, you can dream about things, but it doesn't really make sense everything, because some of it is just too much of a dream, if you understand me, in the content. But this book just takes it down, and it says this is how it works, this is why it works. And it's yeah, no, I really like it, and it's good. I recommend it.
Yeah, I do as well. And
Yeah.
any of his work is really good. It's all
Yeah,
he is
yeah. I
like
haven't I
this.
haven't read any. That's the first book by him. So, and I think it's based on some tapes he made. So it's a recording that he has had. Yeah.
Yeah,
So no, it's good.
yeah. No, he's pretty interesting individual. It was like 3 or 4 decades ago that I stumbled into him.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been that no, because the internet was around. That's where I acquired them. So it wouldn't have been the '90s was the early stages of the
Yeah.
internet. I don't think the internet had arrived yet. I was working for a technology company at the time, and we
Mm.
had intranet amongst
Yeah.
our company around the globe, but we didn't have the
Yeah.
internet. The bell we used to tease call them propeller heads. Those are the
Mm.
ladies and gentlemen that had the brain power to create what we all take for granted today.
Mm. Yeah.
Bell Labs was an amazing organization.
Mm.
I got to work with not with them. I couldn't even, well, not anywhere near, but I worked for a company that they were part of AT&T, and
Mm.
some of the
Okay.
brain power in that company was amazing.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, And if it wasn't for those people in that lab at that time, you and I wouldn't be doing this today.
No. I can
you also like some other authors as well, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, as I said, I was in, or I found, I would say, Jeffrey Gitomer in 2003, and just before that, I moved to Chile because I used to live in Chile from 2001 to 2005. And when I came down there, my manager in Chile, he was an extremely good person, and he became a mentor to me to do sales because I'm an engineer, so I have a master's degree in marine technology, and I would say not the most extrovert of types. So I was very fact based. So when I did an analysis, that's it. That's what you're getting. I am right. Yeah. So he started saying maybe there are other ways to look at this. Maybe we can try to adjust some of the attitude. And he introduced me to the how to make friends and influence people from Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
And then after that, I bought that on Amazon. I've been on Amazon for a long time, so I bought that book. And then after that, I suddenly started kind of finding books on sales, and the best one I found was Sales Bible from Jeffrey Gitomer. It was just amazing. And then after that, into the Little Red Book of Selling, which is, yeah, I have the first edition. It's just incredible. So, anyways, I read a lot of his books, and then when he started going live, I've been reading a lot of books, but I never kind of found more specifics. Like you have Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, but after Jeffrey went live in March 16th last year, he started talking about Orison Swett Martin, which he had also in his books, and I think it's called John Patterson or something, who made the cash register company, and he also mentioned Samuel Smiles, and I started buying those books. So I'm reading now because I kind of read 3 or 4 books every day, like depending on the time of day. So I'm reading the 4th book in Samuel Smiles' kind of self-help series, which is called Duty, and it's a first edition. I have the Duty is from 1880, so that's perfect. Wow. So I have self-help from, I think that was published in 1870, no, 57 or something. I have a 1867 edition, but just getting those old books and reading it's amazing. They're much better quality than anything you get today, just the quality of the book. But when you hold that book and you know it's 60 years old, and you're reading it, and it's just the whole spirit, the whole content of it makes it just great. I mean, it's so full of wisdom. And Samuel Smiles, Orison Swett Martin, I highly recommend it because that's the beginning. They are the pioneers of the whole self-help, self-development, and Samuel Smiles, he's using a lot of examples. So he's not saying me. He's saying look at him, look at him, look at them, and even back to the Romans and the Greeks, but also for like the people in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in UK. And it's just amazing, and it makes so much sense in the way he writes it and everything. So yeah, no, I really like Samuel Smiles and Orison Swett Martin too. It's just good content.
So and this is coming from a scientist, an engineer, a logical thinking guy, and so it's not just woo-woo stuff. I'm not so logical thinking in my thinking. I'm more people-centric versus task-oriented. And neither one of those is right or wrong, good or bad. It's just how we process information and how we like to communicate. And but what I like hearing what you're saying, because it gives some credibility from a factual viewpoint. The things that you and I have in common as we study the same sort of thing, how we give testimony to it would be totally different. Yep. You could write a white paper and have all the facts in order, and I would struggle to write that. I can talk about it. I could give metaphors around it and do that sort of thing. And I have anecdotal factual information, but not to the degree you have. That's all okay. That's all cool.
Yep.
You were talking about Dale Carnegie, how to win friends, influence people. I was at a place in life where I wasn't on a PIP. I've been in sales all my life, and some of the sales processes or activities scared the out of me.
Mm.
Some still today, but back then, one of the things I had to do is get on the phone and call people. And I like talking to people, but I hate interrupting people. And so, in your point there, you prefer people coming to you instead of you doing, and I totally get that. So, I look for ways to innovatively and creatively connect with people in a way where they're coming to me. So, there is a ways to do that in attraction marketing.
Mm.
I'm going to come back to Dale Carnegie because at the time when I eventually did get fired. But in that process, when I go back and join the dots, like I was talking about, you and I talked earlier offline, that
Yep.
earlier this week, I did a brief talk on connecting the dots like Steve Jobs talks about. And even though I got fired, the opportunity, and I was married and one time my wife, and I was embarrassed and all that kind of stuff, just, getting fired is not a fun thing to do. However, when I looked at the opportunities that were given to me, provided for me, I had half a dozen within a week that I could choose from. So I chose Dale Carnegie, and I'm glad I did. It wasn't just the book. I ended up working for the company. I'd taken their sales course. I loved it so much that I didn't buy the company, but I was one of the top performers providing enrollments into the sales training program. And I got to the point where I was an assistant instructor in the sales training. So getting fired, yes, it was painful and ugly, but it was like a benefit. It helped me be who I am today and doing what I do as a coach, business coach, trainer, etc.
Yeah.
And it's being cognizant of constant and never-ending improvement, and watching you do your lives. Only I'm catching them on the replay, but it still looks live. Was what was the intrigue for me to make sure that we shared your story and you to whoever's watching us now or on the replay. So if you are watching this now, or if you watch it on the replay, put hashtag replay. And if you like what we're talking about here, remember the business renovator. If you know somebody like our current guest that you think should be on here and share their story, let me know. Let's get them on. Let's talk about that. What's one of the largest gains or benefits that you've achieved because of your openness to the studying of some of the people we've talked about? What would you want to share with the audience?
Well, it's a big thing, and that's self-value. That's how I look at myself, because I started, as I said, I came back from Canada last year, and my purpose was to go back to Norway and then start traveling the world, because I was working in a Canadian company. We had some magnificent ideas and technology, which I was not just introducing to Norway, but all over, because it's just great stuff. And then I came home in kind of beginning of February, and then suddenly there were people going with masks, because China had the situation for a long time. So we went when we went to the airport, lots of people were wearing masks already at that time. Asians, and then of course they also use masks normally. But coming back to Norway, then ready to conquer the world, and suddenly no, you can't travel. So then it kind of I know I didn't we didn't say it out loud, but I know the Canadian owners of the company thought the same thing. What do we do now? So we started building up and trying to get into the market via internet, building up the company there. But when I started watching Jeffrey going live, and then I got introduced to Joe Soto, and he did a mental wealth challenge in May last year with Wyatt Woodsmall, which he is a genius. Basically, he's a genius, and they work with NLP techniques. And part of the challenge was to get the people participating in the challenge to go live. I have never gone live. I have always had huge freight for cameras. When I was being filmed for commercials, I will go completely silent. There would be no. I would stutter. I never stutter, but I started doing that when they were filming me. So okay, I just had to try and go live in that group, in that challenge, and I did. And after that, it's just become very good for my confidence. And I do my lives every morning now. Every morning, because I'm up at 4:17. I have my morning routine, and then my end of the morning routine is strolling through hell, as I say, which is for me it's running, and then I go to the gym, I work out, I run back home, and on my run back home, that's when I do this walking and doing a live, which probably is about 2 minutes, and I'm sharing content because I get a lot from reading like Beyond Positive Thinking, reading Samuel Smiles. My brain starts like, well, my mind is working, and it just says you have to share this. You have to show people how this is working. Like this morning, I was talking about, and that was partly not from these books, but from my own experience. I couldn't sleep last night, so I had stuff going around, ideas going in my brain. So the thing I did, I got up and I started writing. And as Beyond Positive Thinking is saying, if you have defined your challenge and you write it down, it's 55% solved, because then you have set your mind to it. You've made an intention out of it, and then I can go back to sleep. It's easy to sleep because then I've identified, is it something I can do with this? Okay, maybe. Can I do it from bed? No. Okay, maybe I can let it wait for tomorrow then. so so it's just, that's advice I'm giving, and it's just small advice that I've experienced myself, either from the stuff from these books, or it might be the tranquility of the area in actually in hell, which is, it's not a bad place. So, so that's part of, yeah.
And I think it's a combination of all of that you're getting new content and you're marrying other thought leaders with other people and life experiences you've had, and your unconscious, your subconscious mind is melding that all together, and something new is coming out of that. I call
Yep.
that the mastermind principle, which Napoleon Hill talks about as one of
Yep.
the laws of success.
Yep.
Anyway, I think I would like to visit with you again in another month or two and carry on this conversation and talk about what you're reading then and how we can
Yep.
help others apply that, if you're open to that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. No, I'm happy
Okay.
to share it. Yeah.
It's just like
Yep.
we're past 30 minutes, and I know we can go over a
Okay.
little bit, but just to make sure that we're not, people are still here listening and watching.
Yep.
I'm going to just wrap this up for today. As much as I could talk with you for a lot longer, for sure.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for being a guest today on the Business Renovator. Really appreciate it.
So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Perfect.
So that wraps up another session of the Business Renovator. And wow, a man from hell with so much passion. I think you should look at hell with a different point of view now, and maybe get to know Joachim a little bit. Watch his lives, maybe on the replay, because he is 8 hours ahead of me in Mountain Time. But it still seems like it's live. So that's a wrap. As I said, remember to be wonderful and spell it with a U, because you are wonderful. See you next time on the Business Renovator.